opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip, and somewhere in the control room is CJ. We have oh, there he is. CJ, do you have audio? Welcome to live television. We have
there we are, I have audio.
Okay. We have a temporary set, temporary everything, and I have an echo, but we don't care. We will persevere. Okay, we're setting the audio.
You can continue.
Yes, okay. Well, again, welcome to live TV. We have a pretty historic show today. This is the first show after the first recall in the city of Fall River was voted on yesterday by the city council and made official. So we have quite a lot to talk about with all the various machinations of what's happening on with the recall, the litigations, the pending litigations, and everything that's going on. What's happening on social media? It's quite the pot that we have being stirred here. First of all, the council voted 9 to nothing, actually. 9 to nothing, to send a letter to the mayor to inform him that, in fact, the signatures have been certified and that the recall is now a reality, and he has basically 5 days to resign as the mayor of the city of Fall River. Not without a little political maneuvering, though. However, the mayor's staunch and immovable supporter, Pat Casey, was running around the city council chamber before the meeting started, having the mayor's attorney whisper in her ear, then running to Corporation Counsel Gary Howiak, and then running to the council president. And she did attempt to try to delay the process by questioning the fact that asking some questions, and she wanted to bring Attorney Howiak up. However, her motion failed due to a lack of a second. And then the question was moved by Councilor Ray Mitchell, and the process, there was some input, which was good. A few councilors talked about the process. A few councilors talked about how we should just get this over with and have a recall election, and let's not tie it up, which was really, really good to hear, because we have been contending that from the beginning. Let's let everybody speak, but unfortunately, I'm sure it fell on deaf ears in the 6th floor.
It always falls on deaf ears.
Good, CJ, you're back. Okay, you can weigh in. All right, so weigh in. Now that I've set the stage of what happened out there. Let's get into some repartee here.
Well, the studio is under construction, and I'm hidden over here in the background. But it was history making yesterday. It truly was. And I think that the voice of the people, especially in that city council chamber last night, was very interesting. And by the way, Chip, you're more famous now. You were on the front page of the paper. Nice picture of you with that crowd behind you.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I unfortunately haven't seen the paper today, but it was good, because the thing is, the crowd behind us was the thing that, the people who worked on this recall worked very, very hard. They were out there for hours, securing signatures. Their efforts should never go, unappreciated, because the fact is that this was an effort, a collective effort of people who wanted the voice of the public to be heard, and every single person who stood there with getting signatures, and every single person who signed those petitions should be commended, because regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the fact that the mayor should be recalled, you must agree that America is based on the ability of the people to have a voice in their government. That's what this nation was created for. It was a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. And whether you agree or disagree with the recall effort, the fact is, we have secured enough signatures to have it, so let's just have it. And with that, I'll turn it over to CJ.
It's just been amazing how this is. A lot of people, as soon as it was a 9-0 vote, we've never ever had a 9-0 vote on something like this, and I was stunned. Everyone's standing up, clapping, and I'm sitting there dumbfounded. I was just like, ah, and it was truly. It was a different situation, a different room, a different feeling. And the mayor's lawyer was there, and it was amazing to see what actually happened with these people. And what went on during the day prior to getting to this vote. I mean, I was running around with people who had their name and addresses exposed on the internet, on Facebook, on a website, and now on the lawyer for the mayor's website. And they have 209A orders, which are protective orders or restraining orders, as they're generally dealt with. And the clerk magistrate would not take any complaints. This has got to be taken up with the special prosecutor, is exactly what I was told. The magistrate's office was inundated with people who have restraining orders, and you have to ask yourself, what went on there that they didn't want to have to take these complaints? But these are women who have children who are very scared. And then we hear from other reporters that the gentleman who was running the propaganda site for the mayor, actually a couple of propaganda sites for the mayor, who had a contract with the city, who developed software for the city, lost his CDA contract. They removed him. And I'm waiting for confirmation, so this is still unconfirmed. I'm waiting for confirmation from Michael Dion, who is the CDA director. But right away, that individual came back and posted that, they think they've gotten to me and they're ruining my livelihood, but I'm presenting to businesses and city departments what my company can do for Fall River. Mind you, this is a company based out of Dartmouth. But you have to ask yourself, when are people going to wake up? But one of the things I think is interesting, because in looking back at this particular situation with the mayor, and we have actually access to all of this, and I'm thinking we're going to do a special show on it. When the mayor first ran for school committeeman, he came in for his 5 minutes of time at the FRC Media Studios at that time, and he did the Clinton thumbs up, and I feel for you, and one of the professors here at BCC, and I spoke to him just before the show went on the air, said that he's auditioning for the part of a politician, auditioning for the part. I thought that was very interesting, that he was auditioning for the part, and he's still auditioning for a part. I don't know for what, but you have to say to yourself, what is happening in Fall River? And I spoke to this professor. I said, you and I should take a flight out to Hollywood and try to present this to a Hollywood producer. He says, they wouldn't believe us. We couldn't write this, and you can't write what's happening in this city. I mean, this is a revolution. This is truly a revolution, Chip. I just don't know where to go.
You're right, and but the problem, it's the collateral damage that some of these, it's what the mayor has stooped to, legal obstructions to stop the people from speaking. This individual who had these websites is now saying, we didn't get to him. We had no intention of getting to him. What we have an objection to is having a total insensitivity to people who have these restraining orders, where statutorily, I believe they have to check this before they do it. The fact is that you cannot expose people who have protective orders, who may be harmed by someone. They have those restraining orders issued by a court for a valid reason. The court just doesn't issue these things without evidence. You have to go on and you have to define why you need a restraining order. And to do this just goes to show a total lack of sensitivity and a total lack of morality. I mean, he just doesn't care. Apparently, he feels the best way to get business is to do anything it takes and sacrifice anybody just so he can impress the people he's trying to work for. And that's where I guess he has a right to be an insensitive jerk, but I wouldn't hire him. Anybody that I know probably wouldn't hire him, and he's doing himself really no good. But it doesn't stop there. He posted, which, by the way, anybody who wants to hire him, I want to show you how brilliant he is. He posted the petitions with a time date stamp, which proves that the city violated their obligation not to release certified signatures until after the city clerk was notified and the president of the city council was. So, Mr. Faria, you rocket scientist, you showed how good you can do. You just now have become responsible for a complaint that we are filing with the city council asking for a full investigation of why Liz Camara gave you those petitions before and in direct conflict with her statement that no information would be available to anyone until after the city clerk and the president of the city council were informed, yet your time date precedes the time date on the city clerks and the president of the city council. So kudos to you, buddy. I think you're going to get a lot of business after this.
Well, I think it's interesting because Councilor Pereira brought that up last night in the city council meeting, in that, where is all this information coming from, that it's coming out even before the city council knew? Because the city council's notification was set at 16:58 hours, which for people who don't understand military time, that is 4:58, 2 minutes before 5, yet these petition printouts were generated hours before the certification went to the city clerk. And Allison couldn't even release the information to me until she had notified Council President Camara. So it gets to be very, how does the lawyers for the mayor and the propaganda team work? And, the big question is this: who is running communications for the Flanagan team? Because whoever's doing it is just unbelievable, because they're not doing a good job. Communications 101 says you vet everything before it goes out. And obviously this stuff is not going out and it's not vetted. So I have to ask, who's doing that, first and foremost. So, I don't think I would run a campaign this way, Chip, and you and I have a lot of experience in political campaigns. How would you handle it?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't put a timestamp that showed a violation of the law, and on a social media site where everybody has it now. But the fact is that this only proves what a historic thing this was, because the fact is that this initiative was basically done in an uphill battle. I mean, the old adage that you can't fight City Hall? Well, again, all these things that are now becoming public show how difficult it is and how the playing field is not level. It's an uphill battle always to fight the powers that be, the political people with the big campaign war chests, and with people that are out there looking to get a job or to get a contract or to do something. It just goes to show what an epic, accomplishment this was. Because the fact is, look at what we're looking at here. We're looking at the possibility of the Board of Elections providing information to them in advance of providing it to the people who are involved in the recall, to give them again an advantage. The advantage they have of hiring lawyers that can file 7-page objections and try to delay the process, while we have to, basically scrape up dollars from people who have to pay their taxes and all the other fees and buy their bags. I mean, they had everything was in their favor. We virtually did this with sheer grit and determination. And that to me is what's really impressive about what the people have done with this recall. And I think that the city council, and you were right, the tenor in the city council chamber was different than I have ever seen it. And I have been in front of that council for decades. You could see that they finally realized that ultimately you can get to a point where the people just get fed up and they will rise up and be heard. And I think that this is going to change politics in Fall River for a very, very long time.
It's interesting, Chip, because I've been through many political campaign schools. I went down to Washington, D.C. I was trained by the Republican Party. And it's the same school for the Republicans as it is for the Democrats. And, again, full disclosure, I have left the Republican Party. I'm unenrolled. But everything that they teach you says it works everywhere. And no matter how hard I tried to tell them that school of thought does not work in Fall River, they keep saying, oh, you're wrong. Even in Boston, they send people down here to help candidates out from the Democratic Party and from the Republican Party, and they say, this is how we have to do it. And it's like, that doesn't work here. You can say it works everywhere else, but it doesn't work in Fall River. And that's the sad part about it. Fall River is a school all into itself. And you and I could probably make $1 million doing a class just on how to run Fall River political campaigns, because they're unlike anything else. They truly are. And people used to say, if you do it that way, it's not going to work. Well, if I do it your way, it's definitely not going to work. And it's not because Fall River is a different world, but it is, as you would call it, bizarro world. I agree with you. It is bizarro world. But they turn around and they say visibility does not increase votes. Chow mein dinners do not increase votes, but it truly does. And this mayor was elected the first time out, and I worked on that campaign. I worked very diligently on that campaign, based upon the perfect storm. But he had no sense of governance then, and that became obvious after he was elected. And that sense of governance has just increasingly gone into the toilet. I mean, it's been a very fast downhill slope. It's like riding the best roller coaster in the world and taking that last, drop and feeling it and feeling everything fall up underneath you. And that's what's happened to Fall River now. Everything has fallen out from beneath us. When I talk to big businesses, big box stores and other companies and try to find out why they don't consider Fall River, there's two major issues why they don't consider Fall River. Number one is the educational level. And number two is the income level. And I think you've spoken on that, I don't know how many times, that if you don't have the money to support the industry can't come here. And that's something that we've never worked on as a city. And we've always been reactive. We wait until something goes wrong and then we'll react to it. Now they're talking about a $3.1 million shortfall in the school department budget, which they knew about. And they're saying, well, we'll take it out of the free cash when it's certified. The free cash money was already included in the budget. That once it was certified, they were going to put it in the budget. So how do you rely on free cash money to make this happen? Please explain this to me, Chip, because I'm totally lost.
Well, the fact is that, they are masters of manipulation when it comes to money. The fact is, it's ironic that you bring it up, because I just got an email this morning from someone on state level that said Fall River has now reported an additional $3.1 million that was saved in in fiscal year 2012 to make the grand total of money saved by eviscerating the health care plan for the city employees to over $12 million. So now we have to ask the question, that's the next question we're going to ask, is where did that $12 million go? They have said, they have reported, the city has reported that they've saved over $12 million with health care. And where was that money put? I don't think there's a city councilor that can answer that question. I'm not even sure, well, I know the treasurer can because he never answers any questions. But I mean, that's the fact. But this is what we're up against because, as I said, this is what made this movement, you know, such an amazing feat. The fact is that they like to use, they manipulate the rules. We call a Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State says, we don't have anything to do with this because it's a home rule petition. It's got to do only with the city of Fall River. So the city of Fall River is solely responsible for all the legal opinions until it gets to court. Then, last night at the city council meeting, the city clerk says, well, we have to defer to the state about the 64 days. That's not true. And the mayor's attorney continues to talk about statutes that are totally unrelated to our home rule petition. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But with politicians, you know, just as they bend the rules and they tell half-truths, they decide that when it's convenient for them, we'll defer to state statute, and when it's not convenient, we'll say you have to abide by our decision because it's a home rule petition. These are the kind of things that make, you know, government problematic, and that's why this is going to go a long way to curing it. And if you look at it, what they're doing with this movement is what they do with our finances, and that's the reason that this city is in the condition it's in. Because, you know, the bottom line is, I don't think the right hand has any idea what the left hand is doing. I'm not even sure if the left hand's in the same room with the right hand.
It's amazing because, you know, I was quoted as saying that I think Fall River is on the verge of receivership. To be very honest, I think we should be in receivership. I think that the state should step in and the Department of Revenue should do it. For some reason, they don't want to. Maybe it's they just don't want the headache because they know what they're in for. And I know that the unions don't want us to go into receivership because all those cushy contracts would disappear and everything would have to be renegotiated. And again, you know I'm speaking to a gentleman who is absolutely pro-union. You fought for years, for 24 years for the union, and you did a great job, and I respect that. And I'm not anti-union by any means, but when we look at the finances of this city, we have to say, how can we afford 7 and 14% pay raises across the board? How can we afford a $10,000 pay raise, a $10,000 or $20,000 pay raise for somebody who lost $1.9 million? So you have to really look at what's happening. And how can we replace a ceiling in a building where the roof is leaking, but we don't replace the roof? I mean, would you do that in your home?
No, you know, and as you said, you know, the reality is, you know, we're facing a situation where receivership will be catastrophic for this city. But there have been other cities that have gone into receivership and they've rebounded, because what receivership forces them to do is to start with basically a zero-based budget. And then you can prioritize where your money goes. And you're right, nobody fought harder for pay raises than I did. As a matter of fact, I think I'm the only person ever to beat the city twice in bargaining for contracts in binding arbitration under the JLMC. We won both. We prevailed both times we prevailed because we proved at that time the city had the ability to pay. But there were also contracts and years that we had to forego a raise, because part of being a union official is understanding that, you know, if the city doesn't have the money, you know, you have to go back to your membership, as difficult as it is, and say, look, if we go to arbitration, we will lose because the city can prove they don't have the money. So, you know, there's a time where we all have to tighten our belts, and unfortunately, this administration has no idea how to streamline things, prioritize where our money goes, as can be attested by the fact that nobody knows where this $12 million savings in healthcare goes. Every time we see the treasurer, it's like a comedy show, because he has no idea half the time where the money is, even though he's there in front of the council to answer those questions. And how can we expect to have a city that is being run in the most efficient way for the taxpayers and to provide us essential services when it's totally, this government has proven it's total chaos? The reality is that everybody in every union, as difficult as it is, has to realize that it's better for them in the long run to get the financial conditions of this city straightened up, because the fact is, if this continues this way, the damage to all their departments will be a lot worse.
Well, Chip, it just goes to show that not everything happens the way we want it to. We haven't considered any of the stuff that's happening when we look at this. Everyone is looking at, what is this for me? You have members of boards that are saying, ooh, I get my $3,000 or $4,000 a year, and if the mayor goes, I'm not going to be on the board, so I have to support the mayor. And if this happens, if that happens, and we have people doing jobs they're not even qualified to do. We have nurses' aides directing traffic. They are making decisions on who can park where, and what lights can get working, and what light timing can change, and we have people that have not a clue. And then you have people on the ZBA who are turning around, and if you get the right lawyer with the right person, everything gets passed. And you as a former district chief know that the way this city is, we're building houses closer and closer. I mean, if I light a match between them, they both go up like matchsticks themselves. So the benefits that the city's gaining are not happening. And I mean, when you look at just what happened with the fire department, we're going to cut down 175 and we'll be able to save money, but nobody took into consideration the fact that the overtime was going to go through the roof. And why didn't they? Why do we have to continually make false claims and false statements and everything else that just makes people feel as though you're lying?
Yeah, well, on that, I was informed by a source that the city is not going to announce very shortly they got a grant. I'm not really sure about the amount, but you've heard it here first. There will be a grant announced at some point in the future, and that grant will be split between the police and fire departments. And it isn't a grant that's it can be utilized for other things besides hiring. So what the mayor in his infinite wisdom will do is he's going to appropriate half that grant to go into the overtime budget to fund overtime for the rest of the year in the fire department. So here we go again, where we're subsidizing the overtime with a grant that will not be here next year. So what happens if we maintain the same overtime rate, which we probably will? There might be a slight downtick if they put a few people on, which I doubt. But let's say they do. There'll be a slight one. We're not even a quarter of the way through the fiscal year and the overtime budget's depleted. So we're going to put a Band-Aid on it again with the grant, and then next year, when we run out of money in the overtime budget, there will be no grant to subsidize it. So what do? Again, totally irresponsible fiscal management on the part of this mayor. He doesn't have a clue. And as I said before, I don't have anything against Will Flanagan personally. The fact is, as I've said before, he just can't do this job.
Well, Chip, it's sad that that's true, but our time is running out, and we're going to lock this down. So your last word, because we got a minute.
Well, excuse the set. I mean, we have to, you'll see our new improved set, which you probably won't be able to see the difference, but it will be better, I guarantee you. And with that, stay active, vote, regardless of what side of the issue you're on, but let your voice be heard.
Thanks for watching. Have a great day.